So the end of day 2 of metal, kind of echoey in here. We've got walls all the way around. Still waiting on some trim for the doors. And of course, the roof. But they got all the wall metal up, and I guess next week we're going to start on, it's Friday today. Everyone's done for the weekend. So should be Monday. If it doesn't rain, it's supposed to rain Monday, Tuesday. Should be starting on this roof metal. He said it'll take about 2 days to do. And then we'll be pretty much wrapped up as soon as the trim comes in for the door. We ordered all the trim with the metal. We got a whole bunch of trim. You know, they dropped it off when I wasn't home. Gave me the trim, gave me the metal. Laid it all out there in the driveway. Started looking through it, and garage door trim isn't there. So it's about what we've been seeing from this supplier. When you order things, you get 3 out of 7 of them, and it takes a while to get stuff back. If you guys remember from the first video, we're still waiting on the anchors down there. Windows came without screens. Doors came without hardware. Just, I don't know. So anyways, that's all we got for today. Monday, Tuesday time frame. We're going to keep going with the metal. It's raining. It's been raining. The roof is on, but it's not sealed. There's still some screws that need to get put in. The ridge cap and the end pieces aren't on there, so I'm not completely weather tight. So I'm going to make use of a couple days that I got in between contractors doing things, and I'm going to rough in most of my wiring. I'm not going to land the panel yet because I'm not completely weather tight. I'm just going to rough in my boxes and run my wires. That way a good chunk of that work can be done and we can keep moving. Probably the first step we need to do in this process is figure out where things are going to go. I've got OCD, so I always draw out schematics before I start projects like this. So this is how I'm going to lay mine out. It's probably a good idea if you guys lay your stuff out, see where it makes sense. Walk the building, see if you like the distances and things of where the outlets are, where the switches are at. If you want to control lights from different places or how many lights on which switch, whatever, get your drawing figured out. So we're going to use this, and we're going to apply it to the building. You can see the wire running over there. I'm going to have plywood eventually on this, so that's going to miss that. You know, it'll be in the cavity up here, if you will. So I can fit 4 wires there, 4 wires there. I don't think I'm going to have that many down on this end, but when I get further down, they probably will. So I've got my little organizers set up in there. Basically, the wiring is just going to kind of run back in this cavity here, and then it'll go out to each one of my boxes. So I'm going to get that ran, get all this 14.2 in place for all these outlet boxes that are going to be for lighting control, and then I'll drop my leg down to the switch. All right, so we got one run, one bank, if you will, of the lights. This is going to be where the first light's at. I did this section here a little differently than I did that section here. You can see the Romex is going in between the boxes. Over here I might put a mezzanine or a loft, if you will, someday. So I didn't want wires where my head would be because reasons. So I just ran my wires on top of the truss here, across the back side of the header in that little gap, and then back around here. It took me a little bit more wire to do it that way. I didn't want to have to worry about getting my head wrapped up in some wires. If this is ever going to be a loft one day, with the heights and everything, that'll put my head either touching or slightly above that truss, so not having things in and around that. So I have the lights tied together. Now I just have to tie the lights into the switch. So I'm going to run another 14.2 up from the box down to where the switch is going to go, right in there, and then we can say this section is done. So I'm making up this 14.2 run for the right side of the bank of lights. Just wanted to catch this little detail. I go over every every truss here, and I staple it with 2 staples. I got this little staple gun. It's great. Instead of putting a metal staple in and hammering it and smashing it and ruining the insulation, this thing just, like a staple gun should, staples the little staples, as you can see here. Then I go and I tap them a little bit more just to make sure that they grip. I'm using 2 on each stud just in case something gets up here and hits this. Hopefully it won't rip all the wires down, so they're nice and tight, secured. And then when I get to the end of a run here, just a little added protection, I run the wire around the truss on the back side, and then I bring it in the box. That way I can staple it like the run going this way. You can see it comes out, staples on the back, and then it staples on the top. So it has that, you know, little bit of wrap around here to keep it from pulling out. So it would like pull the stud more than it would pull, or it would pull the truss before it would pull the wire out. Basically, you know, I know me, I'm gonna have junk coming up here till I get a ceiling on it, so I just go a little OCD overboard on it. Gonna, you know, just go into one box with my wire, like I got this laid out here. Come back through the box. This is where my end is, and then I just run it that way to the next box. That way I'm not fighting wire over and over and over and over again. So got a couple more left, and then we can get to the next piece. Got the feed run to the switch for the power off of the switch. I wired in 3 of my switches. I got 1 bank, another bank, and then this is going to be some outside lights. Got the 20 amp feed coming in. I know it's a 15 amp. It's a 15 amp lighting circuit, but I'm going to run a 20 amp breaker to it. I haven't figured out where I'm putting which breaker, so I haven't done anything inside the panel. I did mount the panel. I did get my wire up and sent over. So 20 amp Romex going into the switch, and then that'll feed all my switches. Just LED lighting. So 20 amp circuit. I've got 15 amp outlets that are going to be going up here. I've got 2 runs of 5, so each switch will control 5 LEDs, and then the far right switch is going to run 3 LEDs, lights across the front. All those all together, I doubt will pull 10, 15 amps when they're on. So 20 amp circuit should be fine. That's what I'm trying to say. So I got 1 breaker, and that'll feed all of that. Next, we're going to start doing outlets. There's no codes here, so I'm doing what I do. I got an outlet every few feet. I think it's every 6 feet. So I got 4 on this wall, 1 on that wall. I got Christian petting the dog. I got 1 in between the doors, and I think that's going to finish up the circuit here. So I got to tie in wire to that. I'm going to run all the wires and then tie them into here. Off of this outlet, it's going to go across and down into the panel, and then that'll be another 20 amp breaker. Plan is to have each wall-ish is going to be on its own breaker. So there should be 5 to 7 outlets on a 20 amp breaker. They're 20 amp outlets, so I can run larger stuff off them. I don't think I'm going to need too much of that on this side of the shop. That's going to be not a lot of heavy fab stuff, just the basic like I had in the last shop, and that worked fine off a 15 amp breaker, so 20 amp stuff should be fine here. On this wall, I'm probably going to run, depending on how many breakers I got left, I'm probably going to run 2 breakers or 2 outlets per breaker. That way if I'm running something large like a drill press or something on this wall, it'll take that. I plan to put a tool bench and my workbench and all that kind of stuff is going to get built into this corner over here. That's why I got this blocking for shelving and stuff. So I'm kind of going to overpower this corner. So I've got these outlets made up. I'm going to call this the Bay 1 circuit. These are made. They're ran up over to the box. I haven't terminated the box yet. I have mounted it. Still got to get the pipe, all the wire and all the things to make that more permanent, and I need a ground bar because this panel didn't come with a ground bus bar. But I've got those ran. My inspector is sleeping on the job, so I figured I could sneak in some more stuff without her checking on it. Right now we're going around and laying out where I'm going to put all my outlets. trying to get a game plan for what that's going to do. I'm going to try to do a 220 on each wall. I really wanted to do like 10 220 outlets just so it's wherever I need to go. But that fills up the panel fast. Every 220 outlet is, large, and that's less space for all the other breakers that I need. I'm planning to run 4 outlets per breaker. Yeah, it's going to fill up fast and it's going to be expensive. So I'm going to try to go with 1 220 run per wall. I still have to run 2 30 amp 220s for where I'm going to eventually have mini splits if I ever win the lottery one day. A 220 run for the lift, a 220 run for the compressor. I think that was it for now. So there's a lot of 220 going to run in here. I only have a 30 space panel. I should have probably got the bigger one, but that was another $100, so I got the 30 space one. So it's going to fill up pretty quick. These 220 breakers are going to take up a lot of space, and I also need a lot of space because, what I just said. So I'm going to lay these out, get a feel for where everything's going, and try to get some of this wire ran. So I'm at the part where I'm going to start wiring the outlets. This is the part that always takes me forever. My brain just will not stop chewing on this. So I've got it broken up into 4 individual circuits. I've got 5 outlets on each circuit. Start down here. These 5 are going to break here. I've got to get the run that feeds that over around all these posts. I'm not drilling holes in the posts because that's the port. So the only way to go through them is around the backside. The only way to get through them is to come back through here on each wire. I don't want to stack a bunch of those up because I'm going to have, 4 different circuits. And when I get down to the end, which will be probably my last corner post down here, I'm going to have 4 wires to fish around. So I've got this run done, and I kind of like how it went. I went crazy with staples at OCD. Anyway, it just fishes around the back here. So I figure if I can kind of take 1 on each post, and then eventually I'll run them all to up here on the over the window where I've got these Romex, I don't know what they are, Romex holder deals, and they can get stacked up all nice and contained right here and then drop back down into the panel. So I'll have 4 runs for each of the circuit here, and then they'll go down to their respective holes, if you will. First one's going to go all the way down to where the outlets are here. Number 2 will follow this post and go down. Number 3 can follow this post. Oops. Go back. Number 3 can come across and drop down to this post. So I'm going to have to run those little stapley jobs all the way around, which is fine because, once this is spray foamed and I get something over it, you'll never see all this. But for the 873 minutes until that happens, I have to look at all this crap. And I'm already going to have OCD fits with this Romex running right across here, which I don't like, but it's, it's part of the thing. But anyways, moving on. 4 circuits. Each circuit is going to have 5 20 amp outlets. I'm going to get the home run wire run on that, or whatever feed wire, whatever you electrician folk call that. The main feed to the outlets, this little guy. Once I get all those running in place, then I can daisy chain all the outlets in off of that individual circuit. My goal here is to get 90% of my breakers identified by running all these circuits. When I pick the boy up from school, I can stop and I can get some more breakers. I can get the 10-2 wire, start running this 220, and I can figure out if I made a bad choice and didn't get the bigger breaker box. So let's get back to it. So I ran the home run for this circuit up top all the way around down. Number 2 set, I tucked it up underneath this 2x6, skirted it all the way around, and then these 2 home runs, I kind of followed the window frame. This is going to be my spot that's going to catch a lot of wires because everything goes that way because I don't want to go over the doors. So that's why those are there. They're going to hold a lot of the wires up there nice and neat, and then we'll drop back down to the panel. So that's the home runs for 4 of the 5 circuits. I got the other circuit for outlets done yesterday. I did put my boxes out for the 220 lines, so I'm going to measure that so I can get the right amount of wire when I go to town. Yeah, keep moving on. Fun fact, all of the 220 stuff is probably going to be double what I paid for all the 110 stuff, which is convenient because it's, you know, twice the number. 220 is 110 times 2. I see what they did there. So I'm going to go get this crap, have a heart attack, and probably start this tomorrow. Well, would you look at that? The building's done. Still lots and lots to go for me. But this part is done. I'm gonna give you a little walk around to that, and then I'll get into what comes next. So I had to pull the trucks in here because I couldn't get anything else with the lip there. I need some gravel, but you know, it's a building and a roof somewhere up there. There you go. If you're wondering why I picked these colors, I was hoping when you look through the trees you wouldn't see some bright colored or black building like everybody does. So I picked this tan color. Way back when I was stationed in other places, this was a good color that blended in with the horizon. And then, of course, I went with the doo-doo brown, kind of tie in with the trees, I guess. Woohoo! Metal's done, building's up. Got a roof over my head, got some walls. So every growing boy wants in the world. I've got vehicles on the way. I've got projects already promised and things that I already got to do. So we have got quite a to-do list, and it's slowly sneaking up on wintertime. So hopefully I can focus a little bit of time on getting this building to where it'll at least keep the water out, and maybe I can stay a little bit warm in here without wearing 75 jackets. Hopefully that's a thing we can get done before the winter time. And then I got to get wrenching. I got projects I've been putting off. I've been putting things off since April. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that things started happening for me. Car shows and moving and all the things. And it's just been a nonstop push. So we're getting close to the end. I'm kind of excited about that. I'm really excited that this is finally somewhat, the building has done itself. And that means I can get to doing what I do and just become a little OCD crackhead in here and just start working on stuff. So I'm going to get started on that. We'll see you later. All right, it's 220 day. We're going to start running all these 220 circuits. I think I've got 6 or 7 individual runs of 220 I'm going to run. I don't know if I'm going to be running everything at once, so I didn't want to chance it. So more than half my panel is probably 220 30 amp breakers. So we're going to start running those. Each one requires its own, what is that? Its own 10-2 line. I've got 2 ACs, possibly someday, so I'm running the disconnects for those. I'm going to put the compressor outside. It needs its own 30 amp run. I'm going to have 4 30 amp plugs for 220, one on each wall, and I'm going to put one on the overhead just in case I decide to get a lift someday. I already got 220 up there. I can hardwire to it. It'll be in a box. So yeah, we're gonna get those done. Like I said, each run needs its own home run of 10-2. So that's a lot of wire. I don't know if you guys have priced wire lately. It's expensive. So we're gonna start doing that. Of course, the longer the run of the wire, the less extension cord I need. So we're trying to get these into spots that make most sense. But I think I've got 4 or 5 runs just on this wall because I got the ACs, and I'm gonna put the compressor outside. Each one of those, I'm going to run to one of these 30 amp fusible pullouts. You probably see these next to your air conditioner compressor outside at your house, but that leaves me something to terminate into. It's got a fusible pullout, and that'll be good for isolation if I ever need to work on this thing, and then we'll run some line to the unit itself. But that gives me instead of an outlet, it gives me a termination point. So I'm going to put 3 of those on the outside wall, 2 for the ACs, 1 for the compressor. and then we'll wire in all the other runs. Well, the sun's going down and it's a little dark in here. Got a lot of the stuff done. I didn't get as much 220 done as I wanted to. Got stopped a couple times, had to run into town, had to help the boy with some stuff. Just life. But I did get a good chunk of it done. The hardest part, well, not the hardest part, the longest part for me was running another run of wire up here. I had the 220 for the lift, and then the circuit for 110, the 20 amp. I'm gonna run one circuit. I'm gonna have both the garage doors and another outlet down here, just on its own 20 amp circuit. I know the garage doors probably aren't gonna pull that much, and when they're pulling a load, I won't be having other stuff on, but those 3 outlets are each gonna have a hose reel. So I'd like to get something that maybe I can run a welder on, because it's nice to just grab that and go instead of trying to find where I can plug the welder into. So I'm going to try to get a retractable hose reel that's like 10 or 12 gauge wire, and then run I think they have the little breakers on there. I usually bypass those breakers and let my breaker be the breaker. I don't know, I like to live dangerously. So what I'm trying to say is I'd like to be able to have a circuit that'll hold 20 amps, just in those 3 spots, just to feed the hose reels, because I'm crazy and I overload stuff. I did get quite a few runs of this 10-2 ran, and let me get you some light so you can see. Don't judge my temporary power setup. I just got an extension cord snaked in here through the conduit, through the pad there, daisy chained to like 5 extension cords to the house, just so I can get a fan and some lights in here. Anyways, I did spend a lot of time on the panel just terminating everything, and I tried to get it as clean as possible, even though no one's going to see it once the cover's on. I mean, there it is. I still got to find a piece of 2.5-inch pipe, because Menards and Home Depot did not have that. I don't know why. I'll try again tomorrow. That's where my main feed lines are going to come in when that happens. I tried to get all my lines labeled of what they are, because I hate that when someone puts a panel together and doesn't label it. And I tried to keep everything nice and neat. Grounds all go on the side and hide. All your neutrals are, well, that one doesn't have neutrals. On the 110, the neutrals terminate next to where the breaker's at. And I use a little piece of the Romex to label everything. I don't know. No one's ever going to know that's there but me, and I guess you now that you've seen it. Ha! So most of these runs are ran. I tried to keep everything. Again, you're not going to see any of this because it's going to be covered in spray foam, but it's just my OCD kicking in. So I tried to run everything on the purlins instead of just, draping through the walls and things. But there's a 110 line down there. It's just, just try to make it clean. Theme of the build here. I probably said that 8 times now. I haven't mounted the other one yet, but I did mount a box outside. I did mount a hardwire box. And I put a few of these in, and I don't remember these having, maybe y'all can tell me, I don't remember these being fused in here. I mean, I guess it is, because the ones I got have a fuse spot. I just remember them. Well, you're supposed to get in there. I just remember them having the little push-in job, but there'll be one over here for the other AC condenser, compressor, the other box on the outside. So I'll have one mounted here-ish, one mounted here-ish. And somewhere in here, another 220 line is going to pop out, probably somewhere in the middle. I haven't decided yet. So I've got this real estate out here, and I've got that metal back there. And I'd really like to put my compressor outside. So I was thinking about putting a little pad somewhere. Problem is, as you get back further this way, it starts to slope off pretty good. So I got this to work with. And then I was thinking, well, a guy could snip the riding mower in there. Just doing shed things, not keep it in the shop. Even though the wife says, you got a big shop, you can put it in. I'm not putting it in there, sorry. This is for car stuff. And I got to build stuff for the house stuff. There's no garage. So figure that out. I just do wherever this AC box is going to land, somewhere in here-ish. I might do it, I don't know, squared off like that. Maybe 8 or 10, 12 feet, something like that. What do you think? Is that where you're going to put it? I don't know, something's out there, I guess. Anyways, put something in here. I do have quite a bit of wall metal left. I think I got, I don't know, 4 or 5 long sheets and, you know, handful of those, 8 or 10 of those. And then I think on the bottom there I got 1 full sheet of roofing color, doo-doo brown. But not that it matters anyway. I can just scab some stuff together back here. There's like, I think 30 of those or something, so I can stack them 3 across or something. Whole bunch of flashing, all kinds of extra stuff. I don't know why they gave me all that. But, you know, be enough to put something over here. A little hidey hole, if you will. Eventually, I'm going to be getting rid of some of these trees and things, and this is going to be a lean-to type deal. Way down the road, tractors and possibly my trailer can all fit down this side, and then I might, you know, put the riding mower in there and put other stuff in here. But for now, a nice little shed out back for outback shed things. That's what I'm trying to get to. So anyways, long story. I'm going to put a 220 outlet out there. So I still got to run that tomorrow. So I haven't figured that out, which means I haven't figured out where this other disconnect's going to go. I'm also going to hardwire the compressor in and put it on one of those little fusible jobs. I'm thinking about wiring that leg of 220 to a switch somewhere on the wall over here, and maybe a light. I haven't figured out how I want to do that. I just don't want to leave for the night and the compressor stays on or burns up, or, you know, I've heard horror stories, so maybe I'll just turn it off at the breaker. Haven't decided yet. I'm all in the wiring right now, so it's easy to do things. I may just put that on a switch, but that's going to be probably tomorrow's project. Sun's going down. I'm losing light in here. I can hardly see with that little light for wiring stuff. I still got a lot to go, but we'll see you next time. Next step in this shop build, we got to get power out to the shop, and to do that we have to convert this meter base to a CT based meter that's going to be mounted on the transformer. The power company does that. They're going to remove that meter base panel off the house, and it's going to be on me to try to connect that with a junction box to return power to the house. Just basically join the service wires together, and then they're going to put a meter on the side of the transformer, and the day that they do that, we're going to dig a hole. We're going to take the wires that are currently on there from the house, we're going to pull them out, and we're going to attach them to a pedestal that I have to build. And then we're going to be 200 amp disconnects on that. One's going to feed the house, and the other one's going to feed the shop. So I got to get my stuff ready once again before they get here, because the day they get here is the day that all these power connections have to just move from one to the other so we can restore power as quick as possible. To do that, this is where the power line comes in from the street down there underground of the transformer. From the transformer, it comes out and goes that way toward the house. I already got the project manager over here checking out the power line. Did you find it? Is that where it's at? I guess if she does that, that means there's a power line there. So that's where we're going to dig. Mark me the line of where the cable goes. Obviously, I'm not going to dig into that, but I have to dig to expose that, because everything here has to get pulled back and stuck up into the pedestal. I think that's a friendly suggestion of that's where they want me to put my posts, probably about 5 or 6 feet apart. So I'm going to start digging here and see what I can find as far as power, as far as conduit. Should be a conduit down in there with the cable in it, so I'm going to dig down and see if I can find that across the wires. So I'm going to try to keep this run to go into the house this way, and one run coming this way that'll go back around toward the shop. So let's get to digging. We got that done. By that I mean we got the power connected. I probably could have done this with a lot of Googling and slowly trying to figure it out over time. I don't think the wife wanted to be without power that long, or try to rely on me having the right widget to hook this stuff up. So I called in professionals. Bluff Electric came out and got this wired up along with Ozark Border, who moved my meter from the house over here to the side. So now I'm 400 amp, 200 feeds the house, and 200 is going to feed the shop. So there's a thing that I kind of had to do and absorbed with this project. So that's done. I next have to get a trench dug from the disconnect to the building, and we're going to sink wire in. Probably put some PEX in there while I'm in there for water down the road, because the well's right there. It makes, you know, sense to tie that in. And I'm probably going to run Cat 5 or 6 in that trench also for interwebs and things out there. So got a step done and a couple more unlocked that we can now do. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this week's video. Hope you guys enjoyed the progress. We all had fun getting us here. Still got a lot more to go. We got power to hook up to the building. We got water and internet and wiring to finish up. And then, of course, moving all the crap in there so we can start building cool stuff for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, do all those things. Let me know what you think about the progress or the shop. And we will see you guys on the next one.